The alarm sounded throughout the Earth relief ship Samaritan, breaking the peaceful quiet of the morning shift. Captain Alan Miller looked up from his coffee, his eyes immediately finding the flashing red light on the command console. "What's the situation, Officer Grant?" he asked, setting down his mug and crossing the bridge in 4 quick strides. Susan Grant's fingers flew across her communications panel. "Distress call from Proxima Centauri colony, sir. Audio and data packets coming. Through now." The main screen flickered to life. A tired-looking man with dust-covered hair appeared. Behind him, people rushed back and forth carrying medical supplies. "This is Governor Pete Adams of New Haven Colony. We're experiencing an outbreak of unknown origin. 30% of our population is already infected. Our medical facilities are overwhelmed. We need help. Please, Earth Command, we need doctors, supplies, and quarantine equipment." The transmission crackled with static before continuing. "Our scientists believe it's an airborne pathogen. Symptoms include high fever, blue rash, and..." The governor started coughing violently. When he looked up again, they could see blue marks spreading across his neck. "Please hurry." The screen went dark. The bridge fell silent. Captain Miller straightened his uniform jacket. "Officer Grant, send confirmation of receipt and tell them help is coming. Lieutenant Blackwood, I want security. Protocols for epidemic response activated immediately." John Blackwood nodded, his tall frame already moving toward the security station. "Yes, sir." Miller pressed a button on his command chair. "Dr. Webb to the bridge. Urgent." Less than 2 minutes later, Dr. Olivia Webb arrived, her red hair pulled, back in a tight bun. "I already saw the transmission, Captain. This looks serious." "Assessment?" Miller asked. "Based on the blue rash and speed of spread, this isn't like anything in our database. We'll need to bring everything we have and prepare for the unknown." Dr. Webb's voice was calm, but her eyes showed concern. Miller nodded. "I'm declaring this a Level 1 emergency response. Contact Earth Council for immediate authorization. We'll need the full convoy." "Sir," Susan called from her station, "there's something else you should know. To reach Proxima Centauri in time, we'll need to pass near Xeranian space." A tense silence fell over the bridge. The Xeranian Empire had made their feelings about humans clear in recent months. Though no direct conflicts had occurred, their threats were impossible to ignore. "Understood," Miller said finally. "Plot the fastest course. We'll deal with the Xeranians if necessary. These are our people dying out there." Within 3 hours, authorization came through from Earth Council. The Samaritan would lead 4 other medical ships, the Hope, the Mercy, the Comfort, and the Goodwill, all loaded with supplies, medical equipment, and personnel. Dr. Webb worked tirelessly in the medical bay, preparing treatments based on the limited information they had received. "We're working blind here," she told her medical team as they loaded experimental virus treatments. "Pack everything. We don't know what we'll need until we get there." In engineering, Lisa Dominguez checked the ship's systems one last time. The Samaritan wasn't built for speed. It was a hospital ship designed for stability and comfort. Pushing the engines would put strain on them. "How bad is it going to be?" asked Kevin Reeves, the ship's pilot, as he watched Lisa work. "We'll make it," Lisa said, tightening a valve. "These old girls are tougher than they look. Just don't make any sudden turns once we hit full speed." Kevin smiled slightly. No promises. 24 hours later, the 5-ship convoy departed Earth orbit. Captain Miller stood on the bridge, watching his homeworld shrink on the view screen. "Speed?" he asked. "Maximum safe velocity, sir," Kevin replied from the pilot's chair. "Estimated arrival at Proxima Centauri in 48 hours. Miller nodded. "Communications. Send our flight path to any Xeranian vessels in the area. Make it clear we're on a medical mission." "Yes, sir," Susan said, though her voice betrayed her doubt that the Xeranians would care. As the convoy pushed deeper into space, the crew settled into their emergency routines. In the medical bay, Dr. Webb reviewed the latest data from the colony. The death toll had risen to 63. "We'll be there soon," she whispered to herself, studying the virus patterns. Something about the spread pattern bothered her, but she couldn't quite identify what. On the second day of their journey, The convoy approached the edge of claimed Xeranian space. Though not directly entering their territory, they would be passing, within sensor range. "Any response to our notifications?" Miller asked Susan. "None, sir, but they've received them. I got automated acknowledgments." Miller frowned. "Keep broadcasting our medical status and intent." "Sir," John Blackwood called from his security station. "I recommend we raise shields. As a precaution. This is a medical ship, Lieutenant." Raising shields could be seen as aggressive. "With respect, sir, so could letting our people die because we were careless." Miller considered this, then nodded slowly. Minimal defensive screens only, nothing that could be interpreted as weapons preparation. As they continued their approach to Proxima Centauri, Susan's console beeped. "Captain, I'm picking up unusual energy readings ahead. Could be solar flares, but..." "But?" Miller prompted. "The pattern is too regular for natural phenomena." Miller's eyes narrowed. "Scan the area. Full spectrum." For several long moments the bridge was quiet except for the soft beeps of the scanning equipment. "Nothing showing on visual," Kevin reported from the pilot station. "Whatever it is, it's either very small or cloaked," John finished grimly. Miller walked to the front of the bridge, staring at the empty space on the view screen. "Continue on course. Officer Grant, open a channel on all frequencies." "Channel. Open, sir. This is Captain Alan Miller of the Earth relief ship Samaritan. We are leading a humanitarian convoy to assist a medical emergency at Proxima Centauri colony. We are unarmed and on a mission of mercy. Any vessels in the area, please acknowledge." They waited. No response came. "Sir," Susan said suddenly, "I'm receiving a transmission from Earth Command." "On screen," Miller ordered. Admiral Carter's face appeared. "Captain Miller, our long-range sensors are picking up unusual activity near your position. Proceed with caution. Remember, this is a mission of peace, but the safety of your crew and medical personnel is priority." "Understood, Admiral." As the screen went dark, Miller turned to his crew. "Stay alert. Kevin, keep us on course, but be ready for evasive maneuvers, if needed." The stars streaked by outside as the medical convoy continued its urgent mission. None of them knew that in less than 6 hours the universe as they knew it would change forever, and Earth would be forced to remember arts of war long set aside. The Samaritan pressed forward, carrying hope and healing toward those who needed it most. The crew members focused on their duties, each aware of the stakes. Every minute delayed meant more lives lost at the colony. What they didn't yet know was that someone was watching, waiting, and preparing to strike. 6 hours passed without incident as the medical convoy pushed deeper into space. The Samaritan led the way, with the 4 support vessels following in tight formation. Captain Miller had just finished his 3rd cup of coffee when Kevin Reeves spoke up from the pilot station. "Entering the outer reaches of the Proxima Centauri system, sir. Estimated time to colony, 4 hours. Miller nodded. "Good. Officer Grant, send word to the colony. Tell them to prepare their landing facilities for 5 medical ships." Susan opened, her mouth to respond but stopped suddenly, her eyes widening as she stared at her console. "Sir, I'm detecting something's not right." "Explain," Miller said, immediately alert. 3 large energy signatures just appeared. They weren't there a second ago. Susan's fingers flew over her controls. "They're all around us." John Blackwood was already at his security station. "Confirmed. 3 vessels just decloaked. Xeranian warships based on the configuration." Kevin turned in his chair. "They've positioned themselves to block our path forward." On screen, Miller ordered, standing up from his command chair. The main view screen changed to show the space ahead of them. 3 massive ships had appeared, their hulls covered in sharp angles and glowing red lines. They were positioned in a triangle formation, effectively surrounding the medical convoy. "Open a channel," Miller said, his voice steady despite the tension filling the bridge. "Channel open," Susan replied. "This is Captain Alan Miller of the Earth relief ship Samaritan. We are on a humanitarian mission to Proxima Centauri colony. We carry medicine and doctors to address a health crisis. Please allow us to pass." The screen remained dark for several long seconds. Then it flickered, revealing a blue-skinned figure, with ridged features and eyes that glowed like embers. "Human vessel," the Zeranian said, its voice deep and scratchy. "You have entered a restricted area. Your kind is not welcome here." "We're not in Zeranian territory," Miller replied, "and we're on a peaceful mission to save lives. Our colony is suffering from a disease outbreak." The Zeranian's mouth twisted, in what might have been a smile. "Humans are not welcome in this sector. Your medicines are contraband that would interfere with natural selection." Before Miller could respond, the screen went dark. "Sir," John called out, "they're charging weapons." "Evasive maneuvers," Miller ordered. "All ships, scatter pattern Delta." Kevin's hands moved quickly over his controls, but the Samaritan was slow to respond. It wasn't built for quick movements or combat situations. The first blast hit before they could turn. The ship shuddered violently. People fell to the floor as the lights flickered. "Direct hit to our port side." Lisa's voice came through the comm system from engineering. "Shields at 60%. On the main screen, Miller watched in horror as one of the Zeranian ships fired on the Mercy. The medical vessel had no chance. It exploded in a ball of fire and debris. "No!" Dr. Webb cried out from where she had entered the bridge. There were 300 medical staff on that ship. The Goodwill was next, caught between two Zeranian vessels. It tried to turn but was too slow. The enemy ships fired together, tearing the medical vessel apart. "Broadcast on all frequencies," Miller shouted over the chaos. "This is an unarmed humanitarian mission. We are carrying doctors and medicine only." Another blast rocked the Samaritan. Miller grabbed the edge of his chair to stay upright. "Sir, the Hope is trying to jump to faster than light speed," Kevin reported, his face pale with shock and concentration. They watched as the Hope began to glow with the energy buildup for the jump. But a Zeranian ship moved quickly to intercept, firing directly at the Hope's engines. The medical ship spun out of control, its rear section exploding before a second hit destroyed it completely. "Automatic distress beacon is broadcasting," Susan reported, her voice shaking. "It's sending real-time footage back to Earth." Another hit sent sparks flying from a console on the bridge. A crew member screamed as she was thrown across the room. "Lisa," Miller called through the comm, "we need power to the engines. Maximum speed." "Working on it, Captain," the engineer's strained voice came back. "Rerouting power from non-essential systems now." The ship shuddered again. The lights went out completely for a moment before the emergency power kicked in, bathing the bridge in red. "The Comfort is still with us," John reported. "They're taking heavy fire." Dr. Webb moved to help an injured crew member. "We need to get out of here, Captain. These ships were never meant for this." Miller's mind raced. They couldn't outrun the Zeranian ships, and they couldn't fight back. Their only chance was to escape and jump to faster than light speed. "All remaining ships, prepare for emergency jump," he ordered through the comm system. "Random coordinates. Just get clear of the attack zone." Another blast hit them even harder than before. Miller was thrown from his feet. When he got up, half the bridge consoles were dark. "Shields at 15%, John reported. "One more direct hit and we're done." "Jump coordinates locked in," Kevin said, his hands steady despite the chaos. "Ready on your command?" Miller looked at the view screen one last time. The Comfort was still trying to evade the Zeranian ships. As he watched, a blast tore through its middle section. The ship didn't explode immediately. It broke in half, its pieces drifting apart as smaller explosions rippled through both sections. "Jump now," Miller ordered, his voice tight with grief and rage. The stars on the view screen stretched into lines as the Samaritan made its desperate jump to faster than light speed. The violent shaking stopped, replaced by the steady hum of the engines pushing, beyond their limits. "Status report," Miller called out when they were clear. "Half the crew injured or dead," Dr. Webb reported, already treating a wounded officer. "Medical bay is overwhelmed. Engine stress at critical levels." Lisa's voice came through. "We can maintain this speed for maybe 2 hours before something gives out." Susan looked up from her damaged console. "Sir," the distress beacon transmitted everything. Earth saw it all happen in real time. Miller nodded grimly. His ship was crippled, his convoy destroyed, and hundreds of medical personnel were dead. And back on Earth, millions of people had just watched as an unarmed humanitarian mission was slaughtered without mercy. "Set course for the nearest Earth outpost," he ordered, "and save all records of the attack." As the damaged Samaritan limped through space, none of them yet realized that back on Earth, the peaceful civilization that had sent them was already changing. The transformation had begun the moment the first medical ship exploded on millions of screens. Earth was waking up, and it was angry. The video of the attack reached Earth within minutes. The automatic distress beacon had broadcast everything. The Xeranian ships appearing from nowhere, their commanders' cold words, and then the merciless destruction of unarmed medical ships. In her office at the United Earth Government headquarters, President Samantha Rodriguez watched the footage in stunned silence. Her hands gripped the edge of her desk until her knuckles turned white. "Play it again," she said to her aide when the video ended. The second viewing didn't make it any easier to watch. 4 medical ships destroyed. Over 1,000 doctors, nurses, and relief workers killed. And the 5th ship, the Samaritan, badly damaged as it escaped. President Rodriguez pressed a button on her desk. "Call an emergency session of the Earth Council. Immediately." Within an hour, the 12 members of the Earth Council gathered in the circular chamber. Screens around the room showed crowds forming in cities across the planet. People were in the streets, watching public view screens that played the attack footage on repeat. "The people are demanding action," said Councillor Aaron Barnes from the African Union. "This was not a military vessel. These were doctors going to help our sick." President Rodriguez nodded. "Before we decide our next steps, I want to hear from Ambassador Morris." Frank Morris stepped forward. He looked tired, with dark circles under his eyes. As Earth's diplomatic representative, he had been trying to establish peaceful communication with the Xeranians for years. "Madam President, Council members, I made one final attempt to contact the Xeranian High Command after the attack. Their response was..." He paused, his voice tight with anger. "They said any further human expansion would be met with similar force. They called our medical aid genetic pollution and warned us to stay within our current boundaries." Murmurs filled the room. President Rodriguez turned to a woman sitting quietly in the corner. "Director Bennett, your assessment?" Nicole Bennett, head of Earth Intelligence, walked to the center of the chamber. "Our analysis suggests this attack was planned. The Xeranians positioned their ships along our medical convoy's route days ago. They waited until our ships were committed to the journey and carrying our most valuable medical personnel." "Are you saying this was a trap?" asked Councillor Barnes. "Yes," Director Bennett replied. "We believe they deliberately targeted this convoy to test our resolve. They wanted to see how Earth would respond to a direct attack." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. General William Kelly, a tall man with gray hair and a stern face, stood up from his seat. "Madam President, the Defense Forces are ready. We can have the first response fleet deployed within 24 hours. President Rodriguez looked around the room. "This would be the first time in 50 years that Earth has gone to war. We've been a peaceful civilization for 2 generations. Is this truly the path we want to take?" Councillor Elena Martinez from South America spoke up. "My grandmother used to say that peace is not the absence of war, but the presence of justice. What happened to our medical ships demands justice." One by one, each council member voiced their opinion. All agreed. This attack could not go unanswered. President Rodriguez stood. "I call for a formal vote. All in favor of authorizing military response against the Xeranian Empire, raise your hands." All 12 council members raised their hands without hesitation. "It is decided then," President Rodriguez said. "General Kelly, activate the fleet." The general nodded and left the chamber immediately, already speaking into his comm device. Across Earth, military bases that had been quiet for decades suddenly came alive. Ships that had been used for science and exploration were quickly refitted with weapon systems that had been kept in storage. but well-maintained. Veterans who had become teachers and engineers were called back to service as advisors. In orbit, around Earth, the massive shipyards began working around the clock. The manufacturing colonies on Mars and Europa sent messages of support, offering resources and volunteers. Director Bennett entered the President's office later that evening. "Madam President, we've received word from our colonies. Every single one has pledged support. Even the independent settlements want to help. This has united us," President Rodriguez said quietly. "For the first time in my lifetime, all of humanity stands as one." "There's more," Director Bennett said. "We've received communications from 3 other species who have had encounters with the Zaranians. They're offering intelligence and support." President Rodriguez looked surprised. "They're willing to ally with us?" "They've been watching us, Madam President. They've seen how we behave, how we prioritize peace and aid, and now they've seen what happens when someone mistakes our kindness for weakness." In the Military Command Center, General Kelly briefed the newly appointed fleet commanders. Giant screens showed the positions of Earth ships and the known locations of Zoranian outposts. "Our first priority is rescuing the colonists at Proxima Centauri," he told them. "They still need medical aid, and now they need protection." Fleet Commander Diane Powell, a veteran officer who had been called out of retirement, studied the tactical displays. "The Zoranians will expect us to be cautious, to move slowly. They think we've forgotten how to fight." "Have we?" asked a younger officer. Commander Powell smiled grimly. "Fighting isn't something you forget. We just chose not to do it. There's a difference." She pointed to a spot on the map. "The Zoranian forward base is here. They'll think they're safe because it's far from our territory. That's where we strike first." General Kelly nodded in agreement. "Commander Powell will lead Operation Swift Justice. Captain Martinez, your stealth vessels will spearhead the attack." Captain Andrew Martinez stood straighter. "My crew is ready, sir." In orbit above Earth, the ships of humanity's awakened fleet gathered. Some were old warships recommissioned and upgraded. Others were science vessels with newly installed weapon systems. Together they formed the largest military force humanity had assembled in half a century. President Rodriguez stood before a global audience to address humanity. Billions of people watched from Earth and its colonies as she spoke. Today, we were reminded of a hard truth. There are those in our galaxy who see compassion as weakness, who view our dedication to peace as an opportunity to do harm. The attack on our medical convoy was not just an act of war against our ships, but against everything we stand for. The President's voice grew stronger as she continued. "We came in peace. We extended our hand in friendship. We will not make that mistake again. From this moment forward, humanity stands ready to defend itself and its values. We will rescue our people at Proxima Centauri. We will secure our borders, and we will show the Zoranian Empire that the people of Earth may prefer peace, but we remember war." As the first wave of Earth's fleet departed, a message was sent ahead to any Zoranian ships in their path. "You attacked doctors. You murdered healers. You've awakened a giant. Now face the consequences." The war had begun. Fleet Commander Diane Powell stood on the bridge of the Earth warship Vindication, watching as her strike force assembled. 5 stealth vessels, led by Captain Andrew Martinez in the Retribution, moved into formation. 20 larger warships, newly armed and ready for battle, waited behind them. "Is your team ready, Captain Martinez?" Powell asked through the comm system. "Yes, Commander," Martinez replied. His face on the screen was serious but calm. "My crew has studied the attack footage. Lieutenant Washington has identified weaknesses in the Zoranian shields." Lieutenant Eric Washington was a tactical genius. He had spent the last 3 days analyzing every second of the convoy attack, looking for any advantage they could use. "The Zoranians fire their main weapons in a specific sequence," Washington explained, joining the call. "It creates a brief gap in their rear shields. If we time our attack correctly, we can exploit it." Commander Powell nodded. "Good work, Lieutenant. Remember, our goal is to hit them hard and fast. Show them that attacking our medical ships was the biggest mistake they've ever made." The Earth fleet moved through space silently, using a route that avoided all known Xeranian patrol areas. Captain Martinez's stealth ships led the way, their advanced technology making them nearly invisible to enemy sensors. As they approached the Xeranian forward base, Commander Powell addressed the fleet. "This is the first Earth military action in 50 years. But we haven't forgotten how to fight. We're doing this for the doctors and nurses who were killed while trying to save lives. We're doing this so that no one ever mistakes our kindness for weakness again." The Xeranian base came into view on their screens. It was a large space station with several warships docked around it. As Earth intelligence had predicted, their defenses were minimal. The Xeranians clearly weren't expecting an attack so far. "From Earth territory, they think we're weak," Powell said. "Let's show them how wrong they are. Captain Martinez, you may begin." The 5 stealth ships moved forward, still undetected by Xeranian sensors. Captain Martinez's voice was steady as he gave the order. "All ships target their power core and weapon systems. Fire on my mark." Lieutenant Washington counted down the timing sequence. Xeranian shield rotation in 3, 2, 1. Mark. All 5 stealth ships fired simultaneously. Their weapons hit the exact points Washington had identified. The Xeranian shields flickered and failed. Before the enemy could respond, a second volley struck their weapons arrays. "Main fleet, move in," Commander Powell ordered. The larger Earthship surged forward. Their presence finally triggered the Xeranian alarm systems, but it was too late. Half of the enemy's defense capabilities were already disabled. On the Xeranian base, panic spread. Their commanders had never expected humans to strike back so quickly or so effectively. Their ships scrambled to defend, but they were caught unprepared. "Sir," a young officer called out to Captain Martinez, "the Xeranian ships are targeting our smallest vessel." Martinez watched as 3 enemy ships surrounded the Earth vessel Defiance. "Pull back, Defiance," he ordered. "Lead them towards Section 7. The Defiance turned sharply, drawing the Xeranian ships into a trap. As they followed, 2 Earth ships lying in wait ambushed them from behind. Commander Powell watched the battle unfold. The humans moved with precision and determination. The Xeranians were confused and disorganized. "They expected us to be scared," Powell said to her bridge crew. "They thought we'd forgotten how to defend ourselves." One by one, the Xeranian ships were disabled or destroyed. The Earth forces targeted engines and weapons first, avoiding unnecessary casualties when possible. "Commander," Martinez reported, "we've secured the outer perimeter, ready to board the main station." "Proceed," Powell ordered. Strike teams from Earth ships entered the Xeranian base. The fighting was intense but brief. The humans moved with calm efficiency, their training returning despite decades of peace. Within hours, the base was under Earth control. The Xeranian command center was captured intact, providing valuable intelligence about fleet movements and communication codes. In the medical bay of the Vindication, Chief Medical Officer Laura Scott treated wounded from both sides. Among her, patients were survivors from the Samaritan who had joined the attack force. "How do you feel treating the same people who attacked your ship?" a nurse asked her. Dr. Scott checked a Xeranian patient's bandage before answering. "I'm a doctor. I treat whoever needs help. That's what makes us different from them." Captain Martinez walked through the captured Xeranian command center, Lieutenant Washington at his side. "What have we learned?" he asked. Washington gestured to the data screens. "They've been watching us for years, sir. They saw how we focused on peace and medicine. They thought it meant we couldn't fight." "A costly mistake," Martinez said. Commander Powell joined them, looking at the Xeranian star charts. "They have bases here, here, and here," she said, pointing to different locations. "And they've been using this sector to hide their main fleet." "What's our next move?" Martinez asked. "We send the message," Powell replied. "Then we prepare for their response." On the main communication console, Powell recorded a transmission to be sent directly to the Xeranian homeworld. Her message was brief and direct. "This is Fleet Commander Diane Powell of Earth. Today we destroyed your forward base with minimal effort. This is what happens when you mistake kindness for weakness. We came to this sector as healers. You forced us to remember we were once warriors. The choice is yours. Stand down, or face the full force of an awakened humanity. As the message transmitted, across space, Powell turned to her officers. We've won the first battle, but the war has just begun. The Xeranians will respond with everything they have. Martinez nodded in agreement. But they'll be fighting a different humanity than the one they attacked. They thought they were striking a passive target, now they've awakened a sleeping giant. News of the victory spread quickly through human space. On Earth, people gathered in streets and homes to watch the reports. After decades of peace, they had forgotten what it felt like to be at war. But they had not forgotten why some things were worth fighting for. In her office on Earth, President Rodriguez received the report of the successful operation. Casualties? She asked. Minimal on our side, General Kelly reported. We caught them completely off guard. Good, the President said. But this is just the beginning. Send reinforcements to Proxima Centauri immediately. The colonists still need medical help, and now they need protection too. The first strike had been successful, but everyone knew the Xeranians would not take this defeat lightly. The real war was about to begin. Humanity had shown it remembered how to fight. Now, it would need to remember how to win. The Xeranian response came swift and fierce. 3 days after Earth forces captured their forward base, a fleet of 30 Xeranian warships jumped into the system. They expected to find a small occupation force. Instead, they met Admiral Daniel, Carter's main battle group, 40 Earth warships waiting in perfect formation. They took the bait, Admiral Carter said, watching the enemy ships on the main screen of his flagship, the Defender. Just as we hoped, Commander Powell stood beside him. Fleet Commander Powell reporting for duty, Admiral. Carter nodded to her. Good work on the first strike, Commander. Ready for round 2? The crews are prepared, sir, Powell replied, and we have a surprise for them. The Admiral smiled slightly. I imagine the Xeranians have had quite enough surprises from humanity recently. As the Xeranian fleet moved into attack position, a signal came through from their command ship. The blue-skinned Admiral appeared on screen, his ridged face twisted with anger. Humans, he growled. Your sneak attack was cowardly. Now you will face the true might of the Xeranian Empire. Admiral Carter stepped forward. This is Admiral Daniel Carter of Earth. Your empire attacked our medical convoy. There is nothing cowardly about defending ourselves against those who murder our healers. The Xeranian commander snarled. Prepare to be destroyed. As the transmission ended, Carter turned to his bridge crew. Battle stations, deploy the shield disruptors. This was the surprise, a new technology developed in the days since the attack on the medical convoy. Earth scientists had worked around the clock to create devices that could weaken Xeranian shields based on the data from the captured base. The two fleets engaged in the largest space battle humans had fought in generations. Xeranian ships fired their powerful weapons, but Earth vessels moved with unexpected speed and coordination. The shield disruptors worked better than anyone had hoped, allowing Earth's weapons to penetrate enemy defenses. Sir, called out a tactical officer, 3 Xeranian ships are trying to break away. Looks like they're heading for the jump point to Proxima Centauri. Carter's expression hardened. They're still targeting our colony. Commander Powell, take Battle Group 2 and cut them off. Powell's ships moved to intercept the escaping Xeranians. The battle was fierce, but one-sided. Within hours, the remaining Xeranian vessels retreated, jumping away to safety with less than half their original number. Victory is ours, Admiral, Powell reported. Carter nodded, but his face remained serious. A battle, Commander, not the war. While the space battle raged, a special operation was underway deep in Xeranian territory. Commander Ryan Phillips led a small team of stealth ships on a daring mission. Their target, a Xeranian prison world where several alien species were being held captive. Stay close and maintain stealth protocols, Phillips told his team as they approached the planet. Our goal is to free the prisoners without alerting the main Xeranian forces. The rescue mission was a stunning success. Phillips's team liberated 3 different alien species who had been imprisoned for resisting Xeranian expansion. The freed prisoners were shocked to learn humans were behind the rescue. "We had heard of your kind," said a tall, four-armed being who introduced himself as a Trilaxian leader. "The Xeranians told us humans were weak because they valued healing above strength. They confused compassion for weakness," Phillips replied. "A common mistake." Back on Earth, Dr. Helen Wright made a crucial discovery. As a xenobiologist, she had been studying Xeranian biology from samples taken during the battles. "President Rodriguez," she explained during an emergency council meeting, "the Xeranians attacked our medical convoy because of their religious beliefs. They practice what they call survival purification. They believe that treating illness interferes with natural selection." The president looked troubled. "They attacked our doctors because they don't believe in medicine?" "Essentially, yes," Dr. Wright continued. "To them, our medical aid to the colony was blasphemy. Their religion teaches that helping the sick prevents the strongest from rising. This information helped Earth understand their enemy, but it didn't slow the war effort. Within weeks, Earth forces had pushed deep into Xeranian territory, liberating more worlds and gathering more allies. The Xeranian Empire began to fracture as subject species rebelled, inspired by Earth's victories. Several Xeranian colonies surrendered without fighting, having seen what happened to those who resisted. 3 months after the attack on the medical convoy, a Xeranian ship approached Earth space under a flag of truce. On board was Envoy Krazitar, a high-ranking Xeranian official. "I come seeking peace," the envoy said when brought before President Rodriguez and the Earth Council. "The Empire has made a grave error in judgment." "You attacked doctors," Rodriguez replied, her voice cold. "You murdered healers going to save our people." Krazitar bowed his head. "Yes. Our leaders believed your dedication to medicine made you weak. We were wrong. We offer surrender and reparations." Admiral Carter, who had returned to Earth for the meeting, spoke up. "Why should we trust you now?" "Because you have destroyed half our fleet, liberated our subject worlds, and shown you could destroy us entirely. Yet you still treat our wounded and accept surrenders without execution," Krazitar answered. "You have proven strength doesn't require cruelty." The peace negotiations lasted 2 weeks. The final agreement, called the Proxima Accords, established human dominance in the sector. The Xeranian Empire would withdraw from disputed territories and pay compensation for the destroyed medical ships. Most importantly, Earth established a permanent presence at Proxima Centauri, completing the original humanitarian mission while defending the colony with a full battle group. 6 months after the war began, a new, larger relief convoy departed Earth. 5 medical ships, including the rebuilt Samaritan, carried supplies and doctors to worlds in need. But this time, they were escorted by 10 powerful warships. On the bridge of the new Samaritan stood Captain Alan Miller. His face bore scars from the attack, but he had insisted on commanding this mission. "It seems wrong somehow," he said to Dr. Olivia Webb as they watched the warships flanking their convoy. "Our mission is peace, yet we travel with weapons." "Doctor," Webb checked the medical supply readings before answering. "The universe now understands something important about humanity, Alan. Our first instinct is to heal, to help. But if you attack those who cannot defend themselves, our patients, our healers, you answer to all of Earth." As the convoy jumped to faster than light speed, Miller nodded. "We came to the stars to heal. We learned to fight because we had to." Earth had awakened, remembered its strength, and established a new principle that would echo across the galaxy. Compassion is not weakness, and those who mistake it for such would face the consequences. The stars stretched before them as the convoy continued its journey of healing, protected now by the watchful guardians of a humanity that would never again let its mercy be seen as vulnerability.